game of basketball has taken us places we can never imagine. For winning 4 EuroLeague titles,
playing 6 years in 5 countries,
and making connections with people from all around the world.
we have stories that can last a lifetime. Now it's time to tell yours.
When I met Michael Jordan for the first time, and still to this day, if I see him, he's glowing.
It just came down to, like I said, looking myself in the mirror like, brother, do you want to play ball or not?
I've never been in an environment like EuroLeague.
Because, living over here in Europe, bro, we kings over this jump, bro.
Right.
Denver Nuggets.
Appreciate y'all having us on here.
Yes, sir, man. Big time. This is really dope.
This is Hoop Tales.
Welcome back to Hoop Tales Podcast. On today's episode, we have one of the most underrated guards in all of Europe. A 2-time Israeli League Champion, Final Four MVP, Israeli League MVP, Israeli Cup MVP, and current captain of Maccabi Tel Aviv. My former college teammate, John Dibartolomeo. What's up, my man?
What's up, how are you?
Yeah, what's up? Welcome, man. Welcome. Happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
All right, so just talk us through your life now, man. With this COVID situation going on, how's everything over there in Tel Aviv? How you adjusting?
I think it's been an adjustment for everybody. In Tel Aviv, it seems pretty under control for the most part, thankfully. In terms of day-to-day, a lot of chilling around the house, a lot of walks with the dog, with my girlfriend, working out in the house and staying close to the apartment. Other than that, trying to make the most of this time. Started an online class, just trying to get healthy. I had a season-ending injury 4 months ago, so trying to take advantage of having so much free time where I can get back to where I want to be.
Now, what are your thoughts about the possibility of basketball returning this summer in the EuroLeague? And I'm not 100% sure about the Israeli League. I don't know if it's postponed or what they decided yet. So what do you think, in your opinion, will it happen or won't it happen?
It's so tough to tell. The situation is so fluid. You have a bad day and then you think you're going to be like this for the foreseeable future. And then you have a couple of good days in a row. And there's some optimism here that they're going to start opening things in a week. I don't know what that means for the Israeli League. As of now, it's suspended. I think nobody wants to give the final say to cancel the league. In my opinion, this is what we do. You have to stay prepared for anything and you expect to play. But I think it'd be a hard situation getting everybody back here and restarting the season after something like this. I think a lot of time and energy is going into how to figure that out, which I understand. But my fear is, this season has been obviously impacted in a lot of ways, financially, everything. I don't want, one bad season to become 2. So part of me wants everybody to, focus that time on energy and, making sure that we cut our losses. We try to take care of each other as much as we can, and we get next season going without a hitch and, kind of put this in our rear view as much as we can. That's my feeling. I've been out for a lot longer than a lot of these other guys too. So for everybody.
This the part I'm excited about because I've been fortunate to know about you and meet you and be friends with you for the last couple of years through Mike and coming down to the University of Rochester, seeing you ball out, seeing you kill. We'll get to that a little later, but I'm excited. I want to hear about your high school career, man, and growing up in Westport, Connecticut.
High school was fun. Westport's a really nice place to grow up. I was fortunate enough to be there. In terms of my basketball career, Staples, as a freshman, I played, strictly for the freshman team. I think I was about, they listed me at 5'4", and I was ecstatic about that. You know, I was a very late bloomer. But you know, freshman, you know, high school basketball was my first taste of high school basketball, you know, which I always thought about. Growing up, you know, I would always think about playing high school basketball. I never really thought beyond that point. So I was so excited to finally be part of a program like that. You know, my middle school didn't have a team. I would go travel team to AAU team, but never part of like a program. So I was really excited to be a part of something like that. My freshman year, we were, you know, I was just playing with all my friends, which I'm sure you guys can attest to, you know, at some of the best times. We had a successful season, you know, in terms of anything. You know, Staples High School basketball, Westport basketball is not, you know, very known. We're not a very good, I would say, historically team. So it was fun. My sophomore year, it was my first taste of, you know, trying out for varsity. You know, I think I was one of the last spots on the varsity team, and I got to play, you know, solid minutes on the JV team, which I was, you know, again, pumped about. A couple sophomores a couple of my friends got moved up to varsity, and, you know, happy for them, but also, you know, dying with jealousy a little bit in the varsity games. That was good. And then, you know, I got towards the end of my sophomore year, I finally got a taste of varsity. I think I played, you know, sporadically in the last 5 games, which I was, you know, excited about. And then at the end of that season, our coach was replaced. We had a new head coach. And junior and senior year, you know, I finally got a chance to really, you know, play significant minutes and have control of the ball and a role in the team. And that's when I, you know, started to, I would say, take bigger steps in my career. But you got to understand, you know, Connecticut high school basketball itself is not the highest level, and, you know, Staples is not known for its basketball. You know, every year our coach would put on the wall, to make states, you have to win 8 of 20 games. We'd have like the 8 wins that we would have to try to not. My junior year was the first time we've done it, and I don't know. I mean, as long as I think like, I don't know, 7, 8 years. When John Galvin, he was a big player for us. He was had left Staples. And then my senior year, you know, we won. I think we won 12, 13 games, and we made FCS, which is like top 8 in our conference, which was a huge success for us. But we went up against the number 1 team in our conference, and we lost there. But high school basketball was a lot of fun. You know, I had a great time. You know, my best friend was the other co-captain with me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we both went on to play college ball. He played at Ithaca, so we got to follow each other's careers. So it was a lot of fun.
Now, by your senior year, how tall were you?
I don't know. I think like 5'9", 5'10". Probably listed at 5'10". You know, happy with it.
All right. So, after your senior year, what kind of interest did you have, you know, as far as college, and did you think you could, you know, potentially play at a high level?
I started getting. I got my first letter was from Williams when I was at the end of my junior year, like for those summer camps, and I was, you know, blown away. Williams, you know, really good basketball school, really great school. So I went to their summer camp, and, you know, but then they changed the coach, and I never heard from Williams again. So I was upset about that. But well, at the end of my senior year, I think, you know, it was a mix of D3 schools. And a coach of mine, you know, a friend who I grew up with, who trained me a lot, tried to get some interest from the local Division I schools like Sacred Heart. You know, I spoke to them, you know, once or twice, and maybe talk about redshirt or, you know, working my way on the team. But every time that coach came, I think he came to 1 or 2 of my games, I would just play terrible. And that kind of fell through. I kind of narrowed it down, my list, to, I thought about not playing. You know, I thought about, you know, looking at schools just to not play basketball, to have fun, maybe walk on. And that lasted, you know, about a day or 2. And I was like, I got to play ball. Like, I don't want to do anything else. So I narrowed it down to Union, Dickinson, and Rochester. And then I thought about doing a post-grad year. But when I visited Rochester and I looked at the school, I saw that they, for Division III at least, they took their basketball very seriously. They had a nice arena that I fell in love with as soon as I walked around. I walked around the campus, and I felt like that's what college was supposed to feel like. And then I hung out with the team. I hung out with Mike. I hung out with Chip. It seemed like
shout out Chip.
a good, like a really fun group of guys that enjoyed hanging out with each other. And that's all I was looking to do is make friends and play basketball. That's why I've enjoyed basketball so much through the years. Is hanging out and playing with my teammates.
Now, when you got the Rochester, you started your career under the legendary coach Mike Neer.
Right.
Talk about him. Talk about your relationship with him. Talk about his influence on him on you. During that early part of your career, and just talk about him as a person on and off the basketball court.
Yeah. So Coach Neer didn't know much about me when I got to Rochester. How I ended up at Rochester, I think, was the assistant coach. One of the assistant coaches at the time, Jim Driggs. He's from Connecticut, and he played in my area. And his father came to watch a different player, I think, that Rochester was recruiting, named Joe Sindelar. We ended up coming in together. And I think his dad told Jim about me. And then Jim sent me a letter, and we started talking, or Coach Driggs. We started talking more and more. So when I met Coach Neer when we would play NYU, because I'm close to the city, he wasn't, I think, very interested in me. First off, he doesn't like guards. Like, people told me about Coach Neer. If he can play with no point guards, he would. He would play with all. Coach Neer's, 6 feet, I think. And he told me straight up, he's like, I like being able to look my players in the eye, because I'm up to his chest or whatever. So
that's a good philosophy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just a philosophy.
So I don't think he.
Just to give us some context, Coach Nair has been at Rochester at this point
30 years at that point. 33 years.
Old school, stuck in his ways. So you know how that can get.
Exactly. I think especially coming in, like his job of a point guard is to get to that spot on the floor and throw it into the post, to dig, whatever. Like, you had a very structured role, and maybe I was a little too erratic at the time for something he might like. I don't know. I mean, I think eventually I grew on him. Coach Neer is not one to. I mean, at least for me, he wasn't. Someone who would give a lot of flattery to. I was always scared whenever he would call my name, and he would grill you. But I think little by little, we got along well, and he's like Mike said, he's old school. He's very structured. I think he was an Army guy, right? And I would do what I can to follow his game plan to a T, and then when he would give me more and more freedom, I would kind of work off that. So I think our relationship took it was on an upward trend. I only got to play 1 year for him, but the entire time was little by little we got along more and more, and it helped me a lot. I ended up having a good freshman year by the end of it. I was playing better basketball.
You ended up getting player of the year that year, right? I mean, freshman year.
Yeah,
okay.
Rookie of the year of the conference.
When did you what was it a certain moment during the season where you was like, all right, he's giving me the keys, like he's gonna let me do my thing and showcase my talent?
I mean, the first game I really, you feel like you get in that flow and you're just kind of playing was the Wendy's tournament, which is one of our bigger tournaments in the first part. It's a Rochester area tournament, and we were playing the NAIA school, and the game, it kind of got more up and down than we were used to at that time, and I just kind of felt in the flow, and I felt aggressive, and I had one of my best games that game, and then I think from there I felt more confidence that the coaches believed in me, and that I could play at this level. Because when I got to Rochester, I was under the impression, at least in my mind, that it was going to be similar to high school, work my way up. They had a junior point guard at the time. I figured, learn, play a little bit, maybe not play as a freshman, work my way into sophomore, and by junior year getting getting my minutes. But, you know, like I didn't know I was going to be playing until the first scrimmage when Coach Neer told me to sit down for starters.
Wow. Now you go into your sophomore year, and then you guys make a coaching change.
Yeah.
You know, how did you feel about the coaching change after you had such a successful freshman season? I know myself, when I was in school, you know, we had a coaching change after my freshman year, and you know, I had thought about leaving. I thought about possibly transferring. Did those thoughts ever come into your mind? Because, you know, you were successful, so I'm now sure you're on the eyes, you're on the, you know, the radar of a lot of other schools. So, you know, what kind of, you know, went through your thought process about that change?
Yeah, for sure that crossed my mind. First off, there's like, you know, a million things go through your head when something like that happens. And we were already, after my freshman year, I think we had like 18 players, and we already knew a bunch of guys, you know, didn't really want to return the following year. You know, guys were talking
that night when it happened, bro? When he was up there.
Yeah, everyone's figuring out where they were going. And, you know, I never personally wanted to leave Rochester. You know, I liked my friends. You know, basketball was, you know, good. Like I didn't want to stay if everybody else was leaving. You know, I liked Rochester because I liked the people I was around, and, you know, that's the most important thing to me. But yeah, I thought about it. I did have a little bit of interest after my freshman year because, you know, that the school we're talking Sacred Heart, like the assistant coach wanted me to get my release so I can talk to them, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's, you know, always two ways to approach a coaching change. Like, obviously, I was comfortable with this coach at this time. And you can think of it negatively, like, oh, the next coach might not be as good, blah, blah. Or you think of it as a fresh start, you know. You know, I think Coach Neer, as great as he is, that style of play was you know, at least for us guards, it wasn't the most fun style. We had a lot of guards that liked to go get it, and it ended up, you know, a lot of guys at that point had left, and we were down to, I think, 7. Mike, how many? 7 recruit players, I think, at that point.
I'll never forget. We were there. It was my sophomore year, your freshman year. We was up there for Christmas break. And we was in Subi, chilling in the lounge. I think he was playing pool or ping pong or something. And Murph had came out of nowhere, and he's like, guys, I think, you know, I'm done playing. This will be my last year. And then a lot of other guys started talking. We was all feeling the same way. Right. And that's when he brought up that semester at C trip. So he bought that trip up. And I was like,
sounds amazing.
And at the point, you know, me on the team, I wasn't really playing. You know, between my knee injuries and not playing defense, I couldn't see the floor. So I was like, all right, it's about time, you know, to kind of take a step back and focus on something else. So, you know, Murph brought that trip up. I was like, I'm in. I remember Roberson was like, he was in. Slim was in. Other guys were transferring. So it was, you know.
Yeah, Billy was already transferred.
Basically, fortunately, near time, he kind of got forced out. But like Johnny said, it was down to like 6, 7 players. That's crazy.
Yeah. I think we were left with 2 seniors. Was Chip the lone junior at that point? Chip and Slim. Yeah. Slim ended up staying, I think, right?
Well, Slim went on the semester. We went abroad in the fall, and then he came back and joined the team like in the middle of the year.
Really?
Yeah, Roberson did too.
I don't know now.
Roberson came back after that trip and played for like.
Oh, he played for practice.
Yeah, he played for like 2 weeks. He's like, nah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, and then I think we had 7 players. You know, we had. At that point, we had assistant coaches in practice just so we can run, you know, 5-on-5. We had walk-on just to, you know, have a full team.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it gave other guys chances, and, you know, people were playing free because there was no one to switch them. You know.
That also helps.
And then to start sophomore year, one of our best freshmen, he played there for Nate Vernon. He was from North Carolina. He got sick, and I broke my hand. So we both missed the first 5 games. So we were playing with, you know, 5, 6 guys, and, you know, and they were killing. You know, seeing your team have success without you, you know, I think it gives confidence to everybody, like that you're a full team. It could be any guy's night, any night. And, you know, that sophomore year run was, we won the conference, went to the Sweet 16. That's, arguably, the best season my class had while we were at Rochester, actually.
You won UAA Player of the Year that season. Can't forget that.
Yeah. And, yeah.
He said, yeah, you know.
I mean, he's always
Postseason accolades too. Got the team successful,
For sure. So I want you to talk about the UAA a little bit. The teams that were in the conference and just how the conference was set up. It wasn't your typical Division III conference.
Right.
We actually traveled to games and, talk about that experience.
Yeah, the UAA is unique in that way. And, I didn't know much about it until I got there. Obviously, that's one of Rochester's selling points. Like, we fly to games like D1 clubs. And, we thought we were cool walking through airports. But yeah, you travel all over. We travel down to Atlanta, Ohio, Pittsburgh, where do we go? WashU, Chicago. So you're traveling, that second semester part of the season, you're traveling every weekend, or unless you're home, you're going Friday night game, travel Saturday, Sunday afternoon game. And, in terms of basketball, not just Division III, the UAA is one of the top levels of talent. I think that the NESCAC and the conference out on the West Coast with those Ohio or Wisconsin schools, it's tough basketball. You got good, in my opinion, you got some very good players. You got some size and speed. Obviously, not to the level of Division I, but there's definitely some guys sprinkled in there that can play. And it was definitely a learning experience, playing in the UAA. I remember my first UAA game when I was a freshman, or the third or fourth game. It was against Brandeis and one of their seniors. They had a stacked team that year. I think his name was Hollins. Do you remember Hollins? Remember they had two guards sleeves and the big guy?
I can't remember.
Oh my God! Well, he came up to me. We had played Emory at home and Case and Carney, who at the time were weak. And then we were at Brandeis playing, and he came out to me, and he was pretty much telling me that I didn't know what the UA was yet. They were smacked around that game. They beat us twice that year, at home and at our place. But it was fun, obviously learned a lot, had a great time, sophomore year. We went on a big run, the UAA, winning. Our goal always in the UAA, we approach it when we're going in, is we take care of home. You always got to take care of home, and on the road you want to get that split. You try to get that Friday game, so you're playing with house money on Sunday. And we went on a run. We were just rolling through teams and waiting for the bracket to come out, which is so exciting.
All right, so we got to talk about one game in particular from your junior year. Junior year was kind of up and down. I don't think you guys kind of had the success that you envisioned, especially after coming off a Sweet 16 run.
For sure.
But that final game of the year, and I got to shout my man Chip out because it was his senior night. And he had one of his best – I think Chip had like 6, 7 threes, like one of his best games in his career. And then talk about what you did that night.
I had 40.
Johnny is like literally like the most humble basketball player ever.
Yeah.
He's just like, you won freshman of the year. Yeah, I won freshman of the year. Yeah, you won player of the year. Yeah, I won player of the year.
But the reason I remember the 40 is because, like he said, Chip brings it up consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm an asshole for it. But, yeah. No, well, the funny thing about, especially because, Chip wanting that game is Near always, especially Near and Chip, but he got on Chip a lot with the way that Chip played. And, Chip's a scorer. He wants to, he'll break plays at times. And like we said, Near's very structured, so that didn't always fly with him. But he always said, I think it was like a true shoot, you're not a great shooter till you hit, I think his mark was like 5 threes in a game, 5 or 6 threes. And whatever it was, Chip was one below it numerous times. And that senior night game, he hit, like you said, 5 or 6 threes, or 6 out of 7 or 8. And, that's, what he that was a ceiling he broke through for near.
Yeah. He validated his shooter claim.
Exactly. He got a little overshadowed for it. But we can joke about it now. Me and Chip are good friends.
Sure.
If I give him a shot, he led the team in steals my sophomore year. He'll never let me live that down.
Chip was savvy on D, bro. Like Chip's not the most athletic, but
he has those long arms, and he just he moves them. He doesn't get any closer to you, but he just moves them in the passing lane.
For sure.
He's good at that.
For sure.
I was gonna say, talk about the feeling of like dropping 40 points in a game. Like that's not a feat that a lot of people could say they actually did. So you got to like talk about that you're feeling it after the game. I mean, obviously, like you said, it was Chip's senior night, but just talk about that accomplishment. I mean, as a scorer, I know you had to feel like that, feel for that milestone.
I mean, it felt good, but again, like I had no idea I had 40 until after the game, and until like I was doing I think it was the post game conference, and they told me I had 40. But in those kind of games, you're flowing. You're not thinking. You're just feeling it. Obviously, we had. Everything was working for us, and if I have 40, Chip hit 6 threes. Like, obviously, things are going well for us that night, and we're just having fun, enjoying senior night. Enjoying one more time. That's the most fun about it. I'm glad me and Chip can joke about it now.
Tyler, you got to talk about that time you came up, bro, and you came to visit.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Me and Mike were trying to like coordinate some time for me to come up to the school, from time he was in his freshman year, and it would just never work out with my season and certain other things. So I was like, senior year, I gotta come up there. So I still remember, I left. My school was in Princess Anne, Maryland. It was a little small airport, Salisbury, Maryland. So I was on one of them like small, like 10-passenger planes, like University of Rochester. Man, I remember it was kind of scary, but it was a long flight. Got there in about an hour, and then I get to the airport. Mike picks me up in the Benz. I'm sure you've been in the Benz bro. Mike used to toot that Benz around everywhere. So he picked me up in the Benz, and he takes me to the house where him, Chip, and Slim, and who else was there?
Nate and DP.
Yeah, Nate and DP. Shout out to them too.
Sure.
And man, I remember it was just so much fun. I mean, it was cold, and I was walking around, and I'm all bundled up, and I see y'all. It's like 40 degrees. Y'all walking around with short sleeves on.
Yeah, used to it. Probably first time the sun was peeking through, even though it was cold.
Chip was like outside with like moccasins on and shorts, and just, I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? But it was so much fun, and I remember Mike. One of the things he told me was like, make sure you pack your hooping shoes, because you'll be able to play pickup with the guys. And I was like, almost definitely. So I remember hearing about you, and Mike just telling we got this guy on our team that's nice, this and this and this, blah blah blah. I'm like, when you hear certain things, like, all right, I'm sure he's okay, but nothing like that. But I still remember like us playing pickup, bro. You were doing whatever you wanted to do, bro. It was like the craziest thing ever, and I was like, wow, this guy can really go. Like, he's nice. And one of the things I love about you, not just your demeanor, but like Kyle said, you're very humble. But when you get on the court, you're a killer, bro. You just got a killer mentality, and you know how to lead, and it's like something that I had to take a step back. I'm like, I kind of got to get better in that. I was like, I got to take something from this guy, and just watching, you putting up killer numbers, and we can go right into your senior year, man. Your senior year, you averaged 23, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. You're shooting 46% from the three, and you were shooting 91% from the foul line. Like, that's crazy, bro. That's monster numbers, man. But I see why. I seen it up close and personal.
those pickup games between like inter squad scrimmages are the ones that like would get us going the most. I was the most competitive when we play pickup and we play blue gold. Those are always the ones that really get guys going.
I remember the first time he came in, bro. Like his freshman year, obviously the returning players coming back, we think we hot shit. We hoop when we got our squad, and it's like, all right, we're going to get our 5 against, the freshmen. So it's you, Gab, who else was there? Big Rob.
Big Rob. We lost all those guys the first year. Probably maybe DeLeo.
Yeah, true. I forgot about DeLeo. Anyway, Johnny walks in. We're hearing all this stuff about Johnny. And, he walks in regular, unassuming white dude, had a big T-shirt on, like, looking like something off White Man Can't Jump, bro. I'm like, all right. He comes out, and, we open, we're going back and forth. He comes down, boom, hits a 3. Next play, comes down, gets to the cup, easy. Next thing, splits the D, like, make the pass, like, setting people up. Be like, yo, who is this dude? And just from that point on, bro, that's kind of when you, like, started to take over, and we, like, had to respect your game because you was a freshman, little, but you was real, bro.
Yeah. Those are like the most nerve-wracking games too. Your freshman year coming in for the first time, pick up, first time practice. Like, I hope I can hold my own. I hope I don't embarrass myself. I hope,
Yeah, that's like the barometer where you're like trying to figure out, like, do I belong here? Like, like, is this like, what college basketball is all about? Like, I still remember like my first pickup and like my first practice. I was like, man, I don't know if I can make it here. I was like, man, this is this is intense. This is a lot different than high school.
For sure. These guys are big. I don't know them. I want to get along with them. I want them to want to play with me. Find the middle. It was nice. And then, what was the best part for it was that when you put us all the freshmen together, it wasn't as much pressure on us because we were all new.
But, all right, so we just got to talk about what you did at Rochester, bro. Like, you finished at the end of your career, you finished 3rd all time in scoring, 1,779 points, 2nd in assists, 533, and 2nd in steals, 201. Your senior year, you guys made another tournament run. I think the first game in the tournament, you had like 42 or something crazy.
Yeah.
When did you think that you could play professionally, or did you have that thought after the career you had at Rochester?
When you and Tyler would talk to me, when you guys visited when I was, I think, a senior, you guys came back for a visit and told me to think about it. That was the first time I really, I really thought about it. I'm sure because you saw Kyle having so much success overseas, and again, my senior year, I didn't focus on playing basketball after school. Just like in high school, I didn't really give college basketball thought until it was time to go to college, and I didn't know what else I was going to do. My coach got a letter for some guy in Germany that said that he had like a potential job for me. I don't know if he'd seen me play or saw numbers. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to attack this head on. I spoke with the assistant coaches, with my coach, to get out kind of what I needed, like a highlight reel, reaching out to past players, reaching out to other coaches, pretty much anybody who had any affiliation with anybody overseas that had done it before, I was going to reach out to. I approached it like someone would a job. I had my Excel sheet with all the people I talked to, what their connections were, and, approached it like that. And ended up falling into this guy, Emilio Duran and FJ Martin. They ended up becoming my agents because a guy I grew up playing against who played at New Canaan, his name was Will Hanley. He played at Bowdoin, which is another D3 school. And he had played 1 year, I think he was a year older than me. He had just finished his first year in the 3rd division of Spain, or 2nd division, and he, crushed it, double-double, played great. And then he stayed, and he had moved on to an ACB team. I want to say Valencia. And he was, getting minutes. I was watching him play against Real Madrid. I was like, holy shit, this guy in not even a full year has gotten this guy from Division III to pro basketball to sporadic minutes against, these ACB teams. Like, he's going to get my foot in the door. And at the end of the day, that's all I wanted. I heard Spain was the best place to play. And I figured, I wasn't going to shoot up to any first league anywhere. And I figured it would be better to get my foot in the door and work my way up within the country than across. So I knew I was gonna, I just wanted that first job, to try and play. But even with my, Division III resume, I think it's tough to place players like me. I think, people looking for players don't look for, short white point guards. I think, they're one of the last ones on that they're looking for. And, I also wasn't a true point guard. I was more of a scorer. So I don't know how I fit into the European game. So in order to get a job, Emilio recommended that I go and do a showcase in Spain, which I was extremely hesitant about because all these guys tell you to be careful about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to pay the camp. I think he was going to cover, but I had to pay my way there. And when I got there, his partner, FJ Martin, who I got very close with, was going to take care of me. So it was a lot of, a little bit of a leap of faith, just not really knowing what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
But I figured why not? It's what I want to do. And at the very least, I'll hang out in Madrid for a week. So, but the camp ended up being good. FJ and Emilio put me in a good position. The team I ended up getting put on was a bunch of guys who they had. So it wasn't like we had 4 point guards to one team. We had pretty much a roster of his guys, which played to our benefit a lot. And I played well. Like the whole, I think what did it for me is the host team had a team in it of like some pro guys, and I had my best game against them. And I think after that I had some good interest in Spain, and they signed me with an ACB team, and I was going to get loaned out to a 3rd division team. I signed with Saragossa for 3 years with like the option that they could bring me up at any time. And I was. As soon as they put it in front of me, I was like, this, it's awesome for sure. Then they told me I'd be loaned out to Mallorca. I obviously never heard of Mallorca before, but I looked it up on the map. I was like, okay.
It's not a bad place to get loaned out to.
I'll go there, give me a little bit of money. They give me an apartment and car. I don't need anything else.
What did you know about professional basketball overseas just generally before you kind of went through this process? Like, did you know anything about it, or just kind of like,
Nothing about it, it's hard to it's hard to think now, like how little I knew about it. But even my like first 2 years in Spain, like I wasn't following European basketball hard. I followed, the teams I was playing with. I didn't watch EuroLeague. I didn't watch Euro Cup. I didn't watch any of these other games. I was still, I still wasn't, doing my part, like you said in your book about, really immersing myself in the culture of where I was. I was still, an American kid who was overseas, who missed America, missed his friends, missed college. Like that first year, those first couple months are really tough. And I tell potential players that all the time, that like you're going to play pro basketball, but it's not exactly the pro basketball you think. And it's a grind, especially in the beginning. There were countless times where I was, my first couple months where I was like, I don't know if this is worth it. Like, I love basketball, but I can do, I can do other things. And like, is this really what I want? And it was tough, especially my first month as a pro. They sent me to the ACB team for preseason instead of to my team because they hadn't started yet. And the ACB team had their point guard was with the national team. His name was Jonathan Tabu. I think he played for, I don't remember which team he played. Anyway, he was with his national team, obviously really good player. And so I guess I was, in the second 5 playing against these ACB guys, and I was just overwhelmed and demoralized. I was like, I don't know if I can play at this level. I'm not ready. Like, this isn't worth it. It's just getting crapped on every day. I miss home. But it was a good learning experience because then I went down to the 3rd league, and, it was a little bit of a sigh of relief, and I credit my agents for putting me in that spot. I think a lot of guys go overseas and they don't see, they're not ready for the transition. The level is not where they need to be, and they give up. And it's sad to see because there's some good players who, can become great players.
You talked about missing family and stuff like that. I know your parents are huge fans. They were probably at every Rochester game.
Okay.
Did they come over? Like, did they come try to ease that burden for you and help you out early on?
Oh, 100%. You know, my first week in Spain, you know, I wasn't one of their guys they were gonna have that year, so they kind of just threw me in an apartment. I had no TV, I had no Wi-Fi, my phone didn't work, you know,
Right.
and they said they would get it for me, but it was gonna be like a week. So it was like you go from, and everyone knows what it's like to be like a senior in college, living with your friends. Like you're never by yourself. So it wasn't just, you know, I went from always surrounded by my friends and my family and people and knowing where I was to just in the middle of nowhere. You know, you get that feeling you fall off the earth, no one would know. And it's a terrible feeling.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, my mom told me, we talk about it now, right? We talk about how hard it was. And she said like numerous times that week, she almost came and picked me up or came and hung out. And everyone's really happy she didn't.
Uh-huh.
But no, they ended up coming. I think they waited, you know, until games started. I was in Mallorca for like 2 months. She came, and then my dad came, and you know, just you know, help you get settled. You know, my parents, you know, took good care of me growing up. I wasn't prepared, you know, in a way for the real world, and wasn't ready to grocery shop, wasn't ready to run my own house, and I was just there were just so many new things, you know, new language, new culture, so many new things getting thrown at me at once. So, you know, you want to, it gets overwhelming. But, you know, thinking back, it's one of the best learning experiences, you know, I ever had.
Yeah, you talk about that like it's because I experienced it. We all kind of experienced it on this call. Like that's something that a lot of guys don't know. Like you said, when they go overseas, they're thinking about just basketball, but a lot of guys don't really cut it because it's the, you know, you're on the court or you're practicing for 2-3 hours, 4 hours of the day, but the other 24 hours you actually got to live and you actually got to, you know, be in this place, and it gets intimidating. So like, you know, talk about more about like, you know, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with like, you know, the you know, getting adjusted to being overseas, getting adjusted to life, and then talk about more about what life is like in the third division of Spain. Like, you know, what was your everyday practice schedule? What was like, you know, some of your teammates, you know, your coaches and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I tell guys that all the time that want to go overseas. I was like, you know, I know you're a good player. You can learn the game. You like basketball wise, I think you can figure this out. Like you're a hard worker. You want to learn and you got talent. The challenge is going to be, you know, keeping yourself happy off the court and finding your way off the court, because it's really hard to play well when you're not happy. You know, those things go hand in hand. And I think it's not like you play well, you're happy. It's like you happy, you play well. How I dealt, you know, I was, again, like I think I was really lucky. You know, Mallorca was a great place, and it being third division, I didn't live by myself, which at the end of the day ended up being a blessing. You know, my roommate was Spanish, but he spoke English well. He had been playing professional in like the second and third division for 7-8 years, so he kind of knew the lay of the land. He knew how to you know, he was a good help for me. I mean, at first I don't think he wanted to have anything to do with me. I was so tired of having like roommates in and out. He didn't want to talk to me at all. But eventually me and my family, we kind of, you know, broke him down. Every time he'd go out to have snack, I would go bother him. Every time he would come out of his room, I'd bother him. You know, we still keep in touch to this day. But he was huge for me because, you know, he helped me out with everything, you know, learning the language, being a part of the culture, and I'm sure it's in other places. I know it is in Israel as well. The Spanish culture, they're very warm, welcoming people. I mean, they know I'm out here. They know I'm by myself. You know, they're inviting me to dinners. They're inviting me to hang out. And after I got over, you know, I started feeling bad for myself in the first, you know, month or so. I just, you know, I tried to take up everybody on their offers. You know, if they asked to go for a coffee, you know, if they asked to go to dinner, you know, I tried to say yes to as many things as I can. I started, my grandmother bought me Rosetta Stone in Spanish as a gift from over there. So I started learning my Spanish. Yeah, you know, just things that, but you know, once the season gets in full swing, there in Europe especially, there's not a lot of free time. You know, we were we would play on Saturday nights. Sundays would be off. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, at least for 2-a-days. Morning shooting and evening practice. So it's very, at that point, there's not a lot of wiggle room. You're going morning practice, wake up, morning practice, come back, lunch, nap. Maybe you have an afternoon to go for a short walk. In Mallorca, I lived right by the beach, so I go sit at the cafe if I didn't want to nap. It took me a while to buy into the siesta, but after a while, I was like, I'm not now. I don't need to nap. I'm not doing anything. And then eventually, I get everything closes. There's nothing you can do anyway. You got it.
After a while, like the nap becomes like the most like vital part of your ritual. You're just like, yo, like if you don't nap, it's almost like you like, like when people wake up in the morning, they don't have coffee or something like that. You're just like irritable the whole entire day. It's like, oh, I need this nap.
You hit that wall now. It's part of the routine. You got to learn how now, especially now. Like we play games in Israel like 9 o'clock. It's just impossible to be awake without a nap. To play from 9 to 11 at night. But yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I dealt with the transition. I'm lucky. I have a amazing support system back home. I have my friends who I can talk to at any time. I have my family who's like at the drop of the hat, they'll come overseas. And, I know that's not normal, but my family, I think in my first year, I think my brother came, my brother came once or twice. My dad came twice. My mom came 3 times. I think it's a mix. They want to see me, and they also loved Mallorca. Like I couldn't. Over the 2 seasons I played there, they were there. My grandparents came. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, Mallorca is amazing!" And then all the family started to visit me. So, but I'm lucky, that I can get it. My grandfather came 2-3 times. My grandmother came 2-3 times. So it ended up being a great situation. And then you get to spend so much time one-on-one with your family that you never have when you live far away. You have to make that effort just to be with each other, and that week you're just going to hang out with them. When you live maybe an hour away, it's like, oh, I'll get there. So I think it was good.
Yeah, I remember when you were over there in Spain or whatever. Mike will constantly keep us up to date going on, saying how you're doing, and you're averaging 15 and 5 and this and end up getting player of the year, and also helping that program, that organization move to second division. Did you ever think that you would be able to do anything like that? Be able to come in not knowing, not having any type of direction, to now you're getting player of the year over here in Europe, and now you're playing well.
I mean, no, of course not. I always said, my goal was to, my first year was a couple of months was to keep my job. I've heard so many stories about Americans going over there and they're in a terrible situation and coming home, or then the team not playing well and the guy doesn't play well a couple of games and they get fired. I heard so many horror stories. I was just trying to do my best to kind of stay afloat. Obviously, that was the beginning. The longer I was there, the more comfortable I got, the more a part of the team I felt. Like it wasn't, obviously it's pro ball, but I started to feel more a part of the team, and I kind of understood what was going on. And then when you get out there, competitiveness just takes over. At the end of the day, it's basketball, and we had a good second half of the season. We made our run, and that was that. They offered me mid-season to come back if we had moved up, and I was like, if next season I'm in Leboro and I'm with a team I know, if I'm going to be in the second division in Spain, I want to be with this team. It's a step up. I don't see why not to stay.
Now walk us through the Haifa deal. Like, how did that come about? And because at that point, the ACB team still had your rights. So just talk about that deal and how you ended up in Israel.
Well, my agent found out my mother was Jewish, and under the right of return, if you're Jewish, you can come here and play as a local player. And people who know things about European basketball know the kind of advantages that can be to have dual passport. So I can compete with players that aren't Kyle. And so what happened after my season in Spain ended, agent told me to wait. He was thinking about flying me to Israel for a tryout. An Israeli team was going to have me try out, maybe get some interest. I also, if I was going to play in Israel, I wanted to. Can you hear me? I wanted to see the country first, because the stuff I read in the news about Israel, I wasn't too thrilled with. I wasn't really sure I wanted to live there. I love basketball, but again, I was like, I'm not sure if that's worth it. So he set up a visit, and he's like, just chill in Mallorca for a week or two. It ended up being like 2 weeks just hanging in Mallorca, which again, not terrible.
It's not bad at all.
I hung out. I think it was like the beginning of May. Summer was kind of starting up, so I was fine. Anyway, he set up a visit with Maccabi Haifa. So they flew me out there. They put me up in an apartment, which was, I was like, tough start to the trip. It looks, and I was waiting. I kind of just waiting there for when I would have to try out or meet coaches, meet players, meet the team, whatever they had in mind. It was a very fluid situation. Like every couple of days, the thing would change, and I was kind of like, all right, I just want to get home. I want to go back to Rochester. I want to see some friends. I want to start my summer, my season, but I'm happy that I ended up staying because, again, my support system. My dad flew out to Israel to keep me company. He moved us to a hotel, which we were much more comfortable in. And my dad had a fun vacation together. I'd go leave for 2 hours to work out. He would hang out by the pool, the beach. We'd go out to eat. It was one of the best trips I think me and him have had together.
It's not bad.
No, it was a great time. And then I worked out for the coach at the time with the youth players, and again, super intimidated. Coach was screaming at me. I didn't even know him. It was just the hard. I think his workout that he put me through was the hardest workout I've ever had. I got back to the hotel. I was sick for 2 days. And I was like, and my agent called me about how it went. I was like, honestly, I'm not sure. I played okay, but I don't know. But then he called back and he told me the coach loved me and he wanted me to stay and meet the owner of the team, blah, blah, blah. So again, the trip pushed back. I met with everybody. And then I flew back and just waited to hear if they were going to make an offer. And, luckily enough, a couple of weeks later, they made me a 2-year offer, a 1+1.
How long were you there in Israel for from the start to finish throughout the whole entire process?
I think from when I finished playing in Spain till I got home to the States, I think it was a month. I think I was 2 weeks waiting in Spain and then 2 weeks in Israel. And I only worked out for them a handful of times, but it was they kept again.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I've already done it this long. If this is going to get me the offer and the opportunity, I'll wait it out a lot. I'm going to meet the owner.
That's the definition of staying the course, man. Because you just majority of guys probably like, man, F this, man. I'm going, man. I'm going back to enjoy my summer. And you actually you stuck with it, but it ended up paying dividends in the end because, like you said, you end up getting a 1+1 contract with a reputable team like Maccabi Haifa. So talk about your first experience there, once you get there and talk about the difference between playing in Spain and playing in Israel.
Yeah, so this was obviously it. I was again it was my first taste of first division. I was like, all right, going to be a huge jump. I was really excited about how professional it seemed. Now I went in and I had a locker. In Spain, I had the benches and a hook. There's no. I had a locker. There was a shower. The team does your laundry. We had an arena. All this stuff was. I was like, all right, now it's pro ball. This is serious. I better be ready or I'm out. And in the beginning, it was tough for sure. I started playing well early on, and then because I was playing a lot, I had a lot of control, and then our point guard came. He was with the national team as well, and he kind of took the reins, which he was supposed to do, and I had to get used to playing alongside him, and I did not adjust well. My first 3 months in Haifa, I was playing the worst basketball I've ever played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was tough. I got hesitant. My coach was a very strict coach. He was great, but he was strict. He straight up said, he's like, you hesitate again, you're coming out. I hesitated. He took me out, sat me the rest of the game. I called home. I was like, I don't know how to play anymore. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think I can do this.
Like, had your, I call it the Space Jam moment. The Space Jam moment when you're just out in the court, just like
out of it. Like, I couldn't do anything right. I wasn't enjoying myself off. And the thing was, I wasn't enjoying myself off the court.
Yeah.
I was putting all the pressure on myself to play basketball. All I did was think basketball, and I wasn't, living and getting out and getting used to it. And the coach pulled me in his office and he said the exact same thing. He's like, go party, go have fun, go drink, go. He's like, go do whatever you want. Right?
He told you to go party. Oh, that's crazy.
He told me anything and everything I wanted. He's like, don't worry about it. Do whatever you want. Just be like, stop thinking about basketball for a little while. You need to think about something else. Right. He was fun. He was a fun guy though. He was like, guy, beers before, beers after games. Like if you're late, instead of a fine, you bring him a 6-pack. You're good.
we all need a coach like that.
Yeah, practices for hour 15 strict because as soon as practice ends, he has to go outside. He has to have his beer, his cigarette, sit on the deck, and chill. This is his job. And once the job ends, he's on to the next.
Work hard, play hard. Definition.
Yeah, I loved it. But that helped me, and I had some teammates start to take me out and started to do things other than be the inside of my apartment and the gym and the weight room. And eventually, things started to fall into place, and I got more comfortable, and then I was happier, and one thing leads to another. I was grateful they stuck with me for that long because I think I would have ran out of patience with myself at that point. Because when I say I was playing bad basketball, that's not like me being hard on it. Like it was bad basketball. Like I didn't recognize myself when I was playing.
All right, so let's backtrack just a little bit, just to the beginning of the season. Haifa had the opportunity to go on the NBA tour, back to the States, and you had a chance to play against the Grizzlies and against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. So talk about that experience, like being on the same floor with Kobe. What was that like?
Yeah, as amazing as you like, with everything and more that you would think it would be. Like, I didn't expect to be as shocked as I was when I saw these guys, but when I saw Kobe and when I saw Vince, I was stuck. I didn't know what. I was like, you get that holy shit moment, they're in front, they're them on TV, but yeah, and you get so caught up. You're like, all right, I'm playing against an NBA team. I want to play well, but I want to remember everything. I want to I want to see everything going on. But again, amazing opportunity. So happy I got the opportunity to do it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It's just an amazing experience that not many things can, top it for me and professionally at this point.
I remember Mike sent me the picture. It's you shooting in the corner. I think who's guarding you?
It's my favorite picture.
Yeah, I think that was Lou Williams guarding you in the corner. Got a picture right next with D'Angelo Russell. I'm like, man, this is incredible.
It's
all that. I was like, he had to be amazing feeling. So.
It's sick, and you really get an appreciation for how talented those fucking guys are. That is next level. I remember being on the floor and just looking around. The sheer size of them is insane. I remember I think Nick Young checked in the game, and I didn't think he was a big dude. He's enormous.
Yeah.
And Meta World Peace was guarding me one play, just devours you. They're enormous fucking guy, and they can move and they're strong. It's humbling too.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I agree. Talk about during that season, when you started to kind of feel comfortable, and was it that game that you guys had versus Maccabi Tel Aviv where you had kind of like your big breakout game?
I started feeling good like in that stretch a little before that, and I think everything just came together for us that game. When you're one of these smaller teams playing against like these EuroLeague, Euro Cup teams, like there's nothing that needs to be said before games, the week leading up. Like everyone is super motivated. Everyone's playing their best basketball. Everyone's, has so much adrenaline. And, we were just on a different level that day. We, everything was clicking for us, and we, smacked around. And those, obviously it was a lot of fun. Because those are the guys, you want to, like everyone says, like you want to be in their position. That's why. They're where you want to be, and you want to know if you can play at that level. And, the first time I played against Maccabi Tel Aviv, it was the exact opposite. Like it was at their place, and they smacked us like we smacked them, and it was brutal. And it's like, you start to doubt yourself. And I remember after that game, our coach came in, and he's like, I would not trade any of those guys for any of our guys. And that was a big win for us, because what I respected and what I loved about our coach Rami Hadar was he was someone who he spoke the truth to you. Like you knew he did, because he would say such mean things to some people. Like at no point and to me too. And at no point he held back. So when those rare times where he would say something like heartfelt and nice, and that would pick you up, like you knew it was coming from a place that he meant it. And I that sticks for players.
All right, so let's talk about your second year with Haifa, man. You won league MVP. Like
somebody that's a common theme, bro. Like he's just every level, every level, bro.
Once you get comfortable. No, you wouldn't think. But that season, was up until the end of that season. It was a tough season. Up until that point, we had a late run that kind of changed everything around. But up until that point, we were not as good as we should have been. We didn't play as good as we should have been. We were around a 500 team, and there was no reason we should have been there. I think at the beginning of the season, I think we had expectations. We had some returners. We thought, the year before we had finished in third, and we had lost in Game 5 to the team that went on to win it. And obviously we felt we came up short, because we had a good team that year. It's one of the best, the most fun, most enjoyed teams I've been a part of. Just because everyone kind of bought into the system and knew what was expected of them and did their thing. Obviously, overseas, you hardly ever get the same team, twice. There's just so much turnover and so much going on. Right. But we had a decent amount of returners, and we thought, we would be good. And, we were around 500. I think in October, I got hurt, and I was out for like 6 to 8 weeks. And this is my first time, being hurt as a pro, and being hurt away from home, which is, a whole nother challenge. But they took care of me. My girlfriend, who's here, she's listening. Her family, especially her brother and his trainer, took care of me a lot. They would take me to the gym, work me out. I was in a cast, so he'd just give me all these workouts to do with my left hand. And, it was not just physically, I think mentally it was important to me, just, feel like I was getting better still every day, and I was working towards something, and, I was going to, come back this season and be able to play. But then I came back, and, again, ups and downs. We were just super inconsistent. And then, playoffs hit, and I don't know what it was. It's like, we had nothing to lose, or I was excited. Shappy and Kristen were visiting. I had some friends in the stands, some support. And the
went off.
playoffs,
Man, that's my name.
yeah, the playoffs just turned into, just, I don't want to say like a player, but it was just, just having fun, just playing ball, not thinking about anything. It's like, we're the 8 seed, we're playing against the 1 seed. No one expects much. Let's go have some fun. If not 2 weeks, I'm going home. I'm going to be, this summer I'm going home. I'll be chilling. And we'll see, and I don't know. We took off. We should have swept them. Actually, we lost the first game in overtime. Or double overtime. We were winning the whole game, and smacked them by 20. Won on the road by like 1 again, up the whole game, and then smacked them by like 15 in game 4 at home. And winning to go to the Final Four in your home court is like, so it was one of the best experiences I had as a pro, because the Final Four. I realized what a big deal that was in Israel.
It's
to
huge.
qualify for that, being 8 seed and not being Maccabi or Jerusalem, it's a big deal. And we were just so excited. And then we got the draw of Final Four, anything can happen.
Yeah. One
game, and unfortunately, we didn't win it all. We drew Maccabi Tel Aviv in the quarterfinals or in the semifinals, which was, again, nothing to lose. It's Maccabi Tel Aviv. We ended up, it was a tough game. We broke it open in the second half, and we ended up winning by 9 or 8 or 11, something like that. And then unfortunately we met Jerusalem in the finals, and they were the squad that year. I think they went to the Final Four Euro Cup. They had, Jerome Dyson, Curtis Gerald, Amari.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
we just ran out of steam. I think we lost by 8 at the end, and we just ran out of steam, unfortunately. And Kinsley locked me up in the playoffs.
Terrence Kinsley.
Yeah, he told everybody about it. Everyone showing me his tweet. I'm not one for social media or Twitter, but I couldn't get away from it.
That's funny. That's funny.
Every step, man, it just seemed like you just keep, taking your game and taking everything to the next level. And, going into next year, you signed a 3-year deal with Maccabi Tel Aviv. And, for the ones that's our audience, Maccabi Tel Aviv is the team in Israel. And it's crazy, too, that, I'm sitting here, while we're on this podcast, we have 2 captains on one podcast. I was like, it's pretty amazing. Mike, we're very fortunate, man.
I didn't even think about that.
We got 2 captains in one podcast, but kudos to both of you guys, and especially you, Johnny, just getting a chance to see your journey and see how you, even with you, Kyle, but seeing how you guys leveled up and did what you guys had to do. But let's go into talking about Maccabi. Now Mike calls me up on the phone like, yo, I'm playing EuroLeague now. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a day or two after the finals, we just beat Maccabi. I played terrible first half against them, killed them in the second, and they came within the week the season ended. They had called me that they wanted to meet before I left the country even. So I knew they were interested. Obviously, at the time I had, my concerns. Maccabi, at least since I was in Israel in the past couple of years, they were struggling.
Yeah.
The year that I think that year that just finished, they had like 5 head coaches. Yeah. And obviously, you want to play, that just seems like a crazy situation, and you feel for some of those players, because that's a tough situation for any player to play, for 5 head coaches, obviously. But at the end of the day, Maccabi Tel Aviv comes in, and they make you an offer. It was hard for me to show them that I wasn't super eager to sign it. I know you're supposed to play hard to get, but it was everything I was looking for. When I started playing professional basketball, I told myself like, all right, I'll do this for a couple of years, kind of see how it goes. Be abroad a little bit. I also don't know what the hell I want to do for work, so in the meantime, might as well do this. And I told myself, like, I just want to see the highest level I can get, once that stops happening, then I'll admit it to myself, and I'll go and find another line of work. So when it came in, to play EuroLeague, and I could stay in Israel, which, like I've told you before, the transition to new countries and new teams is not the easiest for me. So when I have an opportunity to kind of stay in one place and, get my feet under me, especially early in a team like Maccabi, you want to come in and kind of, be ready at the beginning. One of the challenges of playing for a team of that level, I've noticed, is not just playing in the early per se, is that I'm surrounded by so many fucking great players that I need to play at their level. And it was, again, transition. Like the basketball I played in Haifa was not the same as some of these guys are playing. You get the true meaning of every possession, and you have a goal of every possession, and the scouting was a different level. And it took some time for me to get used to. My first year I played a lot in the Israeli league. Obviously, part of the Israeli rule, they have to have 2 Israelis on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I earned my time just by playing hard. I definitely wasn't playing the smartest in terms of of the team. But I played hard, and I listened, and you do what's asked of you, and it goes a long way when you're a good teammate and you're coachable. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what would get me on the floor for the most part. Yeah, I mean, again, walking to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv, I was shocked. I saw my jersey on the floor. I started, taking pictures of it.
We all do. We all
I don't
do.
know how long it's gonna last, because the year before they got rid of the whole team. Everybody was new.
Yeah.
So I was like, who knows how long it's gonna last? Like, let me cherish every freaking little thing they give me. Let me hoard some gear.
Now, what was the feeling like when they asked you to be captain? Cause I know from my side, I was totally shocked and surprised. I was like, I didn't look at myself as a captain, or especially a prestigious club. And Maccabi is one of the most historical, one of the most prestigious clubs, in all of Europe, and probably one of the biggest brands, all over the world. So, what did it mean to you for to be named captain of Maccabi Tel Aviv?
Yeah, I mean, the same reaction. Super caught off guard. I was shocked, surprised. At the same time, I wanted to know that I was honored by it. But it was a unique situation because we were mid-season, and I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to go behind my teammates' back, and I told, basically, it's what I told them was like, I need to talk to the other captain first. I want to talk to the coach. I want to make sure everyone wants this before I do it. Obviously, I'm very happy to do it, and I'm really happy you asked me and think of me like this. But I want to make sure we do this in as good of a way as possible. Obviously, there's nothing good about having to replace the captain in the midseason. Obviously, there's something not going well at that point. But let's try to handle it in the best way possible. But again, like you said, shocked, and that's a whole nother challenge for me in and of itself. I'm not the most vocal guy off the court. I'll talk and I'll do things on the court, but in terms of like locker room and stuff like that, I'm not the loudest guy. I'll talk to guys one-on-one, but in terms of that. And that's still something that I need to work on, and I'll be the first to say it about myself.
All right, man. So we got to talk about your first year with Maccabi. You mentioned you were playing a lot in the Israeli league and doing pretty well, but you didn't see much time on the court during EuroLeague games. Let's talk about, was that a challenge for you? How did you adjust, and what was your thought process as that was going on?
Yeah, for sure it was a challenge. I didn't expect to get much time. Again, I figured I'd work my way. I knew I was coming in. I saw the other names on the roster. I knew I was coming in, towards the back of the group. I was I went from playing with guys who, I mean, names, but not as many people have heard. You know, I was next to Pierre Jackson and Norris Cole, Sean Thomas. Like I said, like the biggest challenge was me being surrounded by all these great guys. Like if I'm going to take a shot, I need to know it's the right shot and it's a good shot. And, you know, with other teams, when you need to kind of make plays out of nothing, it's something else. But there's so many guys with you that can create and do things that you got to be on that level. But you know, it was a challenge not to play. You know, I played in the Israeli League before. You know, I didn't want to come to Maccabi to play just Israeli League. You know, people come for the opportunity to play in the EuroLeague. And I just figured, you know, if I stuck with it, I would eventually get my time. But I think the coach at the time wasn't a big fan of my game. I'm not sure if he even really saw me play before I came that much. So it was tough, you know. I felt like it was hard for me to kind of do right by him no matter what I did. But again, you know, I try to think positively. You know, I'm playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv. I'm playing in the Israeli League. You know, some guys come to Maccabi and they don't even get that. You know, I have an opportunity to get better. You know, if I keep working and they see me every day, you know, eventually, you know, Maccabi want me to play for them. You know, I just hold on to that hope that, you know, that'll work out. And it was tough because in the beginning, EuroLeague started, and the first like 4 or 5 games, I think I played like around 20 minutes. I was like, holy shit, like I'm in the rotation. No way, I'm gonna fuck. But I was like, I'm gonna fuck it up. Like, well, I gotta be good. And then I think the 4th or 5th game, I had a really tough game, and you know, coach went off on me after, and then next like 6-7 games didn't really see the football. I was like, geez, this is, you know, next level. I don't know if I guess I can't cut it.
I guess going into 2019 season, you led your squad to the Israeli League Championship, and you got the Final Four MVP. Once again, another MVP player of the year.
Where you keeping all these MVP trophies at, man?
I don't know. I think they're in the back. I think I can't take them back to the States. Yeah, that was last year, right? Yeah. So we started the beginning of that year tough. We made a coaching change. You know, we had what happened. We had to start the season. You know, you guys talked to him the other day. I think that Jeremy Pargo, he got injured, and you know, he was a huge piece for us and for the system that the coach had in place, I think. And we started the season without him, and we were kind of just a little lost. Like, we needed his creativity. I mean, you know, Jeremy, and the creativity he brings, and the atmosphere he brings, and the energy he brings, especially when he's kind of doing his thing, he can affect the game so much. And you know, he had a serious back injury and was out for at least a month.
Yeah.
It was preseason, and he didn't come back, I think, until I don't even know, January maybe. At least 3-4. I don't know. We started bad. You know, we had, I think, the worst start. You know, since this new format, it was the worst start I've had. And they made a switch, and you know, started to play better. That second half of the EuroLeague, second half of the Israeli League, we were, you know, a completely new team. You know, Jeremy came back. We had full power, and you know, it's funny, the Israeli League playoffs. You know, going from a team like Maccabi, like playing for a team like Maccabi Haifa, and then going to play in that same league for Maccabi Tel Aviv. It's like you see both sides, and you know how teams approach playing you, and the challenge that is, and you know you're going to get everybody's best shot. Everyone's going to be a little faster, jump a little higher, you know, getting your shit a little more, you know, hack you a little harder. And I understand that, because I did the same thing. You know, I was annoying as hell when I was playing Maccabi, you know. But you know, it puts a good amount of pressure on Maccabi when it comes to, you know, Final Four. We only have, you know, one game. It's like historic when it's an upset and stuff like that. But we snuck by in the semifinal. And the finals, again, it was a back and forth game. I think at the end, we broke it open a little bit. We had a run towards the end, and we ended up cruising, I think, to like a 15-point victory. And once ending a season, a 10-month season with a championship is
Just
like the biggest. Like there's so many good feelings going through you. It's like 10 months, we got a championship, we did our job, like we won, we're on summer break. It's just like nothing could take you down at that point.
right. Talk about, because I remember we played you guys last season. And I remember like towards the beginning of the season, like you said, when we played you guys, like you were like, in my opinion, you were passive. Like you were just coming out there, you weren't getting a whole lot of time. And then when they made the coaching change, I remember the second time we played you guys and you guys smacked us. And it was almost like you were a completely different player. Like you were aggressive, you were assertive. Like it seemed like you felt more confidence in the system. So just talk about that, and then also talk about your coach, Coach Saropoulos. What type of person he is, the type of coach he is, and how he's had a big part in this kind of, I guess you could say, resurgence of Maccabi, because Maccabi over the last, so you mentioned it, has had some down years, but once he kind of came in, you guys have definitely made like a really big resurgence and kind of brought Maccabi back to where the organization, where the club belongs.
Yeah, for sure. I think he deserves an enormous amount of credit. First off, as a person, I think he's a good person, and I always appreciate people who kind of practice what they preach. He's not going to ask you to be a certain, like, do something that he wouldn't. He's a tireless worker, in my opinion. I think he works extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
He's very detail oriented. So when he gets on you to be that same way, I think it should be expected. If he's the leader of the team and he's doing all these things, you need to be at that level. And I think he built not just a team. I think he built each player up individually. If you look at guys who have been here the past 2-3 years, and you look at the way they've played, from start to finish, and obviously, it's getting better, it's getting more comfortable, it's getting more reps, it's being around the league more. But I think he has a lot to do with that. I've seen the growth of Danny Abdia, who is headed to the draft. I mean, him playing, and just what you guys have seen is like EuroLeague, but seeing him in practice and his growth from year 1 to year 2, and same with the other young guy, Zusman.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, and I think it's a tribute to him. And I'm sure, like for me personally, when he came in, he straight up told me, he's like, you play Israeli League and EuroLeague different. And, I felt like I had more control in the Israeli League. I can be more of a playmaker. And the EuroLeague, I was kind of there to be there and to support and stuff like that. And he straight up told me, he's like, I don't want a difference between the leagues. It's EuroLeague, Israeli, I don't care. You have to play your game. And he was also, the first one at this level to tell me, like, he's like, for me, he's like, you're a point guard. You're like, you need to take control. You need to do this, you need to do that. And he was very specific and, real with me, and told me what was expected and what I needed to do, and for a player like me, I really appreciate that direction. Like, you can tell me what to do. It can be really hard. It could be, extremely tough. But if I have a direction and a goal to work towards, and I know that if I'm doing these things that I can get on the floor and be productive, I'm going to do everything I can to do that. It's part of being, a teammate and to be coachable. And he did that for me. When I would do things, I would play. When I wouldn't do them, I wouldn't play. And it was very clear cut. As opposed to the times when you're out there and you feel like you play well, or you feel like you don't play well, and you feel like it has no correlation with if you play more or less, if you play the next game or not. And like I said, I think he's turned, his work ethic and his attention to detail and his, his character, the way he is, he's turned it into a culture for Maccabi, which in that we all have to kind of be like that and step up to that level.
Mhm.
And it's done well for us. This year has been, up until this point, has been a very, very good year for us.
I want you to expand a little bit more on Denny's game, his evolution. Like you said, you got a chance to see him since the beginning. He's projected, the first international prospect to go off the board.
Yeah.
What do you think his ceiling is, and how good is he, behind the scenes in practice, and where do you think he'll end up?
Yeah, I mean, Danny's, honestly, I've been, impressed with his growth. When I got here 3 years ago, obviously he was just a kid, hardly saw him, didn't really know what he was about. Obviously saw size, saw some athletic ability, saw him, dominating kids. But again, I didn't know it's hard to see the translation. His second year, he was with us. Full time at that point. But again, I saw potential, but I didn't see at the time. I was like, I don't understand how it's gonna translate. In practice, he's just another player at this point. He's not showing me anything out of this world. But again, he's a very, very, very hard worker. He's in the gym all the time. He's always working. He has a lot of work attention from the coaches. He gets all aspects, and to his benefit, he takes advantage as much as he can. And then this year, the same thing. He kept with it. Again, beginning of the season, I thought he looked much better. His body's starting to transform. He didn't look as much like a boy anymore. Like, he's very strong lower body, but he started to develop an upper body. He'd become, I don't want to say that he was an okay shooter to he started knocking them down. The shot looked the same every time. It was obvious that he had been putting in reps. And then little by little, he was given more and more minutes. And I think at first, it was tough for him to make the transition from playing with all his friends to playing with, a bunch of pros.
Yeah.
Because, he dominated every facet of the game with them. Point guard, center, it didn't matter. And now he had to kind of play, within a role. And when I was most impressed with, not just with the skill, was the mental aspect of the game, that he took a step there that I hadn't seen yet. Playing the right way, playing smart, taking advantage of mismatches, noticing mismatches. But seriously, he has so many tools, and now he started to incorporate the mental aspect of the game, and I think it's a tribute to the coaches and Coach Veropoulos. I think Coach engraves that. I mean, I know for me, he makes me think in ways like that I haven't thought before, and it's a tribute to how he prepares. And it kind of makes the game simpler for you. And I think, Denny has benefited a lot from all of that. His growth this year gives me a lot more confidence in him now going forward. His skill and his ability, his athletic, that's there. But now, seeing his ability to learn and to develop the other part of the game, I think he can go somewhere and really, create some value for himself and for a franchise.
Going into this year, you're getting some solid minutes with playing EuroLeague and all that, but you happen to tear your pectoral muscle.
Yeah.
And they ruled you off for 6 months. How are you dealing with that?
I crushed it first. I never had a season-ending injury before. Like you said, I felt like I was, slowly working my way up to where I wanted to be. Playing consistent EuroLeague minutes for Maccabi is, I think, the perfect situation for me. I don't need to be the star of any team, but if I can have a solid role in a team like Maccabi Tel Aviv in the EuroLeague, I love living in Israel. I love Tel Aviv. It's everything, I could have wanted I didn't even think I'd be playing professional basketball, let alone an opportunity like that. So yeah, obviously, to get hurt at that point personally was tough, but more so it was that I really felt a part. Like it was, I really enjoyed being a part of that team that we have this year. I felt like we had a very, very, very good mix. I think, Coach made a great team in terms of the way he constructed it and all I think everyone had their roles and they knew them, and we had a great atmosphere. We had fluidity. I think everything was in place to have a very, successful year. And I think we were playing. I was happy with the basketball, at the time that we were playing. I thought we were playing very well together, and we had confidence. And that was, sitting out is never easy. But going to those EuroLeague games and cheering with 10,000 fans just itching to be like that was always the toughest part of the injury. I can get myself up for rehab and for running and stuff like that. Like I can find the strength for that, but the hardest thing is watching during those times when there's such amazing games, such high level, and you just you work so hard to be part of it, and you want to be part of it, and at the same time you want to be supportive and happy for your teammates while they're out there, killing.
You mentioned the Maccabi fans and the atmosphere there in Tel Aviv. Talk a little bit about, because we've already had Pargo, we've had Ricky Hickman. Talk about your admiration for the Maccabi fans and the type of atmosphere that that it is for people that have never been to a game there. What it's like.
I mean, it's tough to describe without being there. Like I try to describe it to people, like my friends back home, like they've been to games but never a EuroLeague game like that, and it's tough to describe without being part of it, because it's not something. At least me and my friends, playing Division III, we don't have these like something can't compare it. And I didn't really, I always knew fans were crazy and a part, but once you are watching on the sidelines and a part of it, you really see how crazy. Because a lot of times you get locked in.
Yeah.
But I really learned to appreciate, especially then the fans and their support, and they're into the game. It's not just noise. Like they're watching. They're on every call. They're on every sub. They're watching the bench. They're watching during timeouts. They're in the game with you. Before start until after finish. They're not taking plays off, and I think that's part of the reason we had so much success at home this year. Is every year I've been here, I felt like the support was growing, and I think this year it really was. Some of the best support I've seen since I've been, for sure, as a pro, and in Israel. And I think it's also because, like I said, they're watching. They saw a team that they believed in, that they thought was fighting, that they wanted to be a part of. And I think, they were. They're key for us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I've played in the arena a lot over the course of my career, and I think this year when we played there was by far the loudest.
That game was crazy.
It was crazy, bro. It was like I couldn't even hear. Like that was by far the loudest. Probably one of the loudest arenas I've been in my career, and the loudest by far that I've seen it there. It was unreal. Do you see yourself? You're still fairly young, but do you see yourself staying in Israel for over the long term of your over your career? And just in life in general.
For life after basketball?
Yeah.
You're gonna get me in trouble. My girlfriend's his friend.
Put you on the spot, bro. Put you on the spot.
I mean, it's hard for me to tell. Like I think my life, especially basketball-wise, has gone so far off what I thought it would be that I don't know where I'll be down the road. I do, at some point, when I get back to the States, I do want to live in the States at least for a little while, But in terms of like what I'll end up doing post basketball, whether it be opportunities out here or back in the States, that's just something I'll have to do. I'll have to approach when I get to it. But again, like I'm trying to make the most of the time while I'm here. I've started, Hebrew lessons because of the pressure. But and again, like I've been in the same place for 3 years. For sure, I feel comfortable. I know where I am. It doesn't feel like I'm too far away from home at this point. I know my neighbors. I know my area. I go in the street and I feel a semblance of being home. And I know that's not something, especially being abroad and a professional basketball player, I know that's not something that I should take for granted.
Yeah.
So, if I could stay here for the foreseeable future, if the opportunity is right, I would love to. But then again, I understand that this is a business. I'm a basketball player. I have to do, what's best for me and my career. And there's a weighing system to every decision. Obviously I'd love to stay, but I know sometimes, that doesn't happen.
I just want to know, like, your career is crazy. Like, there hasn't been many players that have had the success that you've had, especially coming out of D3 to ultimately becoming a EuroLeague captain for Maccabi Tel Aviv. When do you take time to think about, what you've done so far and what you continue to do? Like, has it sunk in yet?
Sometimes I do, because I get being injured. You have a lot of time to think. So I think at that point I did some reflecting, because I was kind of so down about getting hurt when I did, in a contract year in the middle of such a good season. I was I feel like I was getting to where I wanted to, and I was really upset that I felt like I was kind of losing my grip on that upward trend. So I try to take a step back at times and consider myself, lucky. I don't think I'm a much better basketball player than guys who've had different careers than me. I understand that a lot of this has to do, with luck and opportunity and stuff like that. So obviously, I'm grateful for my career and where it's brought me and what I've done, but I know it's far from, because of me. I've had, countless help and countless breaks along the way. Like I said, like I've been abroad and there's times where I have not been playing my best, and I think other players, maybe if they were in different, like with different people at different times, might have not gotten the chance to kind of rewrite that wrong. And I think I always got breaks when I needed to. Like in Haifa, I said, like 3 months playing bad, that doesn't happen. But I think I had a coach that really believed in me, and he knew that I could be better. Not everyone can have their family fly out to them when they're feeling homesick, or have their grandparents fly to them, or their grandmother fly to them. Like, all those things make such a big difference. So yes, I'm happy with my career, but I know that my career is not solely because of me. It's far from that, actually.
Oh, before Tyler asks his last question, I'm
and
just
kind
of
sorry, I have to give them a shout out. They all came.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because I'm like, number one, like just knowing you and knowing Mike and knowing you guys in a circle, talking about your support system and how great they are. But then also too, one of the things that I admire about you and I like about you the most is that you're such a humble, such a kind of like quiet, kind of unassuming guy. So like, do friends and do people back home, and do they understand like kind of the magnitude of like what you achieved overseas? Like, because like I think Mike was telling me a story back home was like you go home sometimes and like you don't even tell people that you're a basketball player. Like you just kind of
he works overseas, bro.
Yeah,
Yes. You have to understand. Like I don't look like a basketball player. So
no, I understand it. I understand.
If I'm back in the States, and no fault of anybody's own, not a lot of people know about European basketball. That's normal.
Right.
So I go home and I say, hey, and they're like, oh, like what are you doing? It's like, oh, like I'm back from what they always assume I'm back from school. They always assume I'm in college or something like that. Like I'm a basketball player, and then they're like, "Oh, you're overseas," and they give me like the, "Oh, is that professional? Do you get paid? Like, why are you doing that?" kind of thing. And it's just much simpler just to be like, I work overseas. And then no one cares because I think you have some weird job overseas. then I don't get like the kind of backhand slap of like, yeah, you don't play basketball.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. Yeah.
So, but what are your friends and your family and your support system? What do they say about like you coming from D3 to being the captain of Tel Aviv? Like what do they say when they talk about your achievements and the magnitude of the things that you accomplished in your career so far?
Yeah, they're super proud. But again, they always thought I was like the best player ever. It didn't matter if I was playing in high school or college or Spain, Division 3 or EuroLeague. To them, I was always the best player. Yeah, I think they're proud of me. But again, I don't think it's because they're proud of me because I'm a successful basketball player. They're proud of me that I do something I like and I have success with it. I think whatever I would end up doing, they would react the same way.
That's most important.
And it's a little more unique. So I think, they can talk a little more about it, and they like to talk about it to people because it's interesting and stuff like that. But, whether it's this or anything else, that's the thing about, good support system, no matter what you do.
When I stopped playing, I really got a chance to be around a lot of kids, high school kids, kids playing in college or, looking forward to playing in college. But a lot of kids now, man, they always feel like they have to go D1. Everything is like, man, I talked to a couple kids like, you have any offers? I don't have D1 offers. Or, they feel like, of course, Division I is the ultimate dream. But a lot of players look down at D2 and D3 colleges and opportunities of playing. They feel like D3 basketball is not as good. They feel like it's watered down, and they really don't understand that it's not about just playing D1. It's just about finding a place that you're comfortable at and a place where that you feel like you can prosper. So I just want you to talk a little bit about that, man. We're definitely gonna have a lot of young ballers, young athletes listening, and with your resume, your story, your journey, just talk to them, about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, for sure. Right. First off, the work you do with kids is amazing. I have to just to get that out of the way. It's amazing. The core you guys built, it's like all the stuff you're doing.
Appreciate
That's the most important. That's more important. But yeah, I think there is a stigma around, not going D1. But again, I think it's a part of, what you can look for and what you can do. Obviously, everyone's in a different situation. I didn't go D1, but I was fortunate enough that my parents were able to pay for me to go Division 3. And I understand, that's not always realistic. Schools are crazy expensive, and sometimes, if someone's going to pay for you to go to school, you have to take advantage of that opportunity. And, that makes all the sense in the world to me. But, the choice of not going to a good fit Division 2 or Division 3, just to have the notion to say, hey, I play D1, I play against all these guys. Obviously, I think that's a little misleading. If you look down the line, there's plenty of D2 and D3 guys who have tremendous success. And again, it's, having success is not, strictly a matter of, playing Division 1. I think, a lot of these guys go, when I was, like, for example, when I was, after my sophomore year, I think it was, of college, I got even a little more interest to leave Rochester to try and pursue, Division 1. And again, thankfully I didn't have to make the decision financially, but there was no doubt in my mind that I did not want to leave Rochester for anything. I loved who I was around. I loved, I was excited to wake up every day. I was excited to go to practice every day. I was excited to hang out with my friends every day. And I think, that, people need to understand, basketball is great and all, but it's a full picture, and, just to play D1 ball and sacrifice any of those other things doesn't always make sense to me. I mean, look at who now is in Duncan Robinson started D3.
Exactly.
There's countless names. It's that argument: big fish, little pond; little fish, big pond. Like that. People are more comfortable in certain situations, and I think you have to find what's best for you, and not too worried about the outside looking in. People say, "Oh my God, you play D1, that's amazing." "Oh my God, you play D3, you must not be that good." It doesn't matter what everyone's thinking.
Definitely proved a lot of people wrong with that stigma, man. So I just want to say, man, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Number one, get healthy. I'm looking forward to seeing you back on the court. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be this summer or next year, but looking back, looking forward to seeing you on the court. Hopefully your friends and your family and everybody stays healthy throughout this throughout this period. And best of luck, man. And like I said, we appreciate you for stopping by and taking this time.
No, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun. I hope it was good. Hope I didn't talk too much.
Man.
People hear this, man.
Yeah.
Everyone stay safe.
All right, brother.
All right, bro. Appreciate you.
Later, guys.
All right.